With us, we have some really good panelists, but before that, I would like to thank Infotech and INEGI for giving us this wonderful venue and the opportunity to share this knowledge. With us is Ignacio Criado from the Autonomous University of Madrid, Andrew Schwartz from the University of Pennsylvania, Eduardo Clark Garcia Dobaganes from the presidency, from the president's office, and from Google, Mr. Juan Ignacio Criado from the Autonomous University of Madrid has honorable mentions on his both his bachelor's and doctoral studies from so at the Complutense University of Madrid. He has also been a guest lecturer at different universities, such as University of Manchester, the European Institute of Public Administration, the London School of Economics, and also visiting fellow at the Oxford Internet Institute, and he has also taught at the Complutense University, as well as the University of Comillas. He has also participated on different courses by CLAD and UNESCO, and he's also a consultant at the European Commission. He has written several books and articles about e-government, open data. Among his research lines are the evaluation of these services online, as well as the evaluation of public policy using technology and information. He's co-founder of a network, Novagov, a network for public administration in the Spanish-speaking world. And now I will welcome Ignacio, and we thank you for attending this event, participating. So with your permission, I will go down on the field, indeed, because as Professor Curon just said, it is about going down to the field, and the first thing I need to do is to thank the institutions that are sponsoring this event for inviting me. This event has really I've been impressed for several reasons, but the main one is that I am surrounded by mathematicians, by engineering and computing experts, experts on information systems, and my training, and that is something that I need to say from the beginning, has absolutely nothing to do with these fields. It is actually related to the arena of public administration, and somehow what I will try to present during this intervention is the relationship between public administration and the big data, with what is known open data in the field of public administration, and how, in some way, all the trends that you have been presenting from different standpoints, from the world of business, from the social world, is having a direct impact on what public administrations do and the way they do it. Specifically, my presentation will be somewhat particular. My role here is actually to frame what is the potential of big data in the field, in the public sector, in a more specific manner. And in that regard, I will discuss a movement, a trend that is going on in public administration, which is the trend towards open government, openness of public data that is aligned to everything that we have been sharing during these sessions. Second, I will address the movement from public administration that goes from attention to official statistics towards the new paradigm of open data, and how somehow what is happening outside of public administrations is affecting the activities of the government. And finally, I will focus on the practical experience and the specific aspect of what is called open data portals in Latin America. Specifically, I will draw some conclusions on this topic, considering the potential this has for the innovation of government's actions for public administration, and also in connection to the motto or the motto of this seminar, that is improving public decision making. And in that regard, how can we improve the social, or how can we boost the social value that citizens provide for um, public agencies? Beginning with the first point here, official statistics in Latin America, I will ask when, how, and why. I think this is going faster than I want. But to begin with, I will discuss a movement or a trend that is taking place within the public sector, which is open government, and it starts on the basis that open is good, that transparency, accountability is positive for public action. In that regard, this concern for openness in the field of public sector has given rise to the laws of access to public information. These laws come from the 18th century. In Sweden, we find the first law of public information access at the end of the 18th century. And why is this interest for what is open being renewed? Well, it is because of the fact that we have a series of technologies that enable us to compute and process information and then data, and also social technologies that enable us to to strengthen this from the standpoint of government. This is based on three pillars. Pillar of transparency. Public institutions need to be transparent for society. They have to open data, which is the DNA, or because their actual work needs to be made available for the citizenry. There is also a pillar of participation. Just making information available for citizens is not very valuable. Citizens need to participate, considering that information that is made available for them by public administrations and governments. And finally, collaboration. It does not make any sense that public administration by itself opens its data and facilitates the citizens' participation if information is not exchanged, if they are not interconnected, or if their data is not interrelated with the data of other public organizations or from the private sector or with the private sector. In this regard, there is an alliance of countries that is called, or a partnership that is called the Open Government Partnership, that is fostering this approach. Mexico is actually one of the countries that is part of this partnership. This is an image of all the countries that are actually fostering and developing this logic of improving public actions by opening public data. And once I have given this short frame of reference, then let us go to official statistics in Latin America. And there are three questions, as I said before: where, how, and why. And I am highlighting two: where and how. We have a very clear vision of where we can find official statistics in Latin America. Somehow we also have the tools to use this data, these official statistics. And the only question that we would need to answer is why, which will be answered later on. In Latin America, we find important statistical sources. Here I am focusing especially on statistics related to the government actions. We find statistics from international organizations such as the Inter-American Development Bank, the World Bank, that also has specific area or department for specific statistics. of Latin America. We also find the case of ICLAC, that is an organization connected to the United Nations that is specifically um, focused on promoting or developing knowledge about the LAC region. We're also finding multi sector networks of statistics on certain industries in which we also find important repositories of information and statistics. And there's also the case of Latin American Integration Association, where we in fact find a very important amount of social and economic indicators connected to interterritorial and interregional integration processes that are taking place in Latin America, such as, for example, Mercosur or the Andean community, and so on. We also find statistics of national um, organizations who are the large producers of statistics um, nationally, while there are the large statistics institutes, such as in the case of Argentina or Chile, or the case of INEGI here in Mexico. And of course, we find other types of statistical sources regarding government, and that is the case of the Latin barometer that informs us of a series of socio-economic and socio-political trends that have, in one way or the other, an effect in the field of government statistics in relation, well, regarding government in Latin America. Official statistics in Latin America. We already know the where and the how. Is we can use these official statistics coming from these different organizations and bodies. And the goal of what I will be discussing today is the why. When we discuss official statistics at the government level, why are we offering these statistics to the citizenry? Why does a government entity or a government offer citizens and companies certain information? That is the paradigm, and we can discuss it during the Q&A session. That is the paradigm that is shifting, a paradigm that goes from being more passive vis-à-vis the receivers of statistics to a moment in which we're intending to transform companies and citizens into active users of these official statistics. And not only active users, but also facilitators of what public administrations do, of what governments do, of their strategic analysis, of the strategic analysis that can be carried out through big data. And indeed, well, then we go to this step connected to statistics, to public statistics, to what we call open data in the field of the public sector. The logics that information or data, as it was defined before, the information that is made available for public administration also needs to be open. And what is open data? Open data is whether a person is free or not to use, reuse, and distribute such data. And also, when we're discussing open data, in this definition we find more features: availability and access. These have to be fully available at a reasonable reproduction cost. Preferably, these these have to be downloadable from the internet, free of charge. There's also the reuse and redistribution. It has to be possible to produce derivative products combined with other information sources and distribute them freely without restrictions. There has to be no technological restriction for the distribution of such data. There are other conditions for open data. These have to be complete, primary, full, and accessible. I will skip this slide. These also have to be processable, non-discriminatory, non-proprietary, and license-free. And these principles do not indicate which data would have to be public. This is only specifying what are the conditions to consider that public data is open? This means that we can publish a lot of statistics from a certain government, but if these do not cover this criteria, then we wouldn't be talking about open data. So what is happening internationally? At the government level, it is been thought to define together sets of open data based on the transparency mandates each country has. We're on a global trend to make data increasingly open and accessible, and in that regard, how can we make this more concrete? This is where we're going now, really going to the field. How can this process be made concrete for the citizens? By creating open data portals in Latin America. Different governments from different Latin American countries have been creating portals in which, beyond the official sources that were mentioned before, they are centralizing the very diverse data repositories coming from very different government entities and that facilitate the access and reuse of this data by citizens and the companies. There's actually an entire industry that is being created to use this type of data. Let me just present some cases of open data portals, such as the case of Chile, which is which has more solid and sizable data sets related to public administration. There is also the case of Colombia that also has more than 500 data sets. The case of Brazil. And well, the game will take place today, so we will not talk a lot about Brazil. Let's skip this quickly. There's also the case of Uruguay, a small country, small government that is doing very interesting and important efforts to develop data sets and make them open with the features I was discussing. This is the city of Buenos Aires that is also developing interesting experiences about open data. That is a paradigmatic case throughout the world, in the world, because it is not only creating data sets or making them available, but they are also creating an environment or an ecosystem of researchers creating applications to use that data, to apply that data that could also feedback on the government's processes for decision making and also on the citizens' decision making processes. And all of this leads us to start considering what is public innovation about, and with this I will begin to wrap it up. Innovation, public innovation based on open data, and this is how we go into the concept of open government, open administration. And there are three very quick tips about this matter, and I hope I will make you interested on how to think about this issue so that somehow you can associate it and connect it with your fields of work. First, the intelligence of crowds to solve public problems. This uh, making citizens participate to solve these issues. Many public organizations are asking citizens, well, here you have the information. We're making what we're doing transparent. Help us solve public problems. I love the idea of crowdsourcing citizens as potential leaders within government actions. The case of Wikipedia is a paradigmatic example of such crowdsourcing. The power of social networks is very often discussed. Public administrations are using social networks and social media for many different purposes, and it is not only for to determine trends and behavioral matters, but for example, Twitter in some cases is being used to prosecute crimes, to communicate with the citizens, to do active listening, to know what is happening out there, and to use all that information in the social networks to improve the government's actions. It is also important to discuss a matter that is very much present in the public arena, which is continuous learning, and that means that organizations need to be continuously learning, like in perpetual beta. That is the idea that there's the possibility to continuously improve government's activities thanks to the use of big data. And finally, and even if I am not on a forum specialized in government issues, the idea of going from the concept of governance to the concept of smart government. The fact that public administration, governments need to use everything that we have been covering in this seminar, big data and so on, in order to think, to do things better, and to render better services for the citizenry. In short, in short, to make our governments, our cities, and our countries better and more efficient. Thank you very much. This has been all, and I wait your questions.